A brigantine is a two-masted sailing vessel that became one of the most common types of smaller ships during the 17th and 18th centuries. Its exact definition, however, varies significantly across historical sources, which often leads to confusion among modern readers and historians. In English naval registries, French maritime records, and commercial documents, the term is applied to vessels with noticeably different sail plans. In modern terminology, a brigantine is a ship that carries square sails on the foremast, while the mainmast carries a combination of a fore and aft gaff mainsail with one or more square topsails above it. In other words, it is a hybrid between a brig and a schooner, combining the speed of square-rigged sails with the maneuverability of fore and aft sails. This versatility made the brigantine an ideal vessel for trade routes, military courier service, and later also for pirate raids. The confusion in terminology has a real historical basis. In the 17th century, the word brigantine was used far more loosely than it is today. The English sometimes applied it to almost any smaller two-masted vessel. The French used the term brigantine even for fast postal vessels, and the Dutch occasionally confused it with terms used for smaller brigs. There are even cases where the very same ship is described as a brigantine in one document and as a brig in another. Another layer of complexity comes from the fact that the word brigantine originally had a completely different meaning. In the Mediterranean of the 15th and 16th centuries, it referred to a small oar and sail vessel with lateen rigging used by Mediterranean pirates and corsairs. The name brigantino comes from the word brigante, meaning bandit or brigand. Only later did the term migrate into the Atlantic, where it began to refer to two-masted sailing ships that had almost nothing in common with the original Mediterranean craft. For the period known as the Golden Age of Piracy, roughly between 1690 and 1730, one thing is essential. When a contemporary chronicler wrote brigantine into a logbook, they did not necessarily mean a strictly defined ship type according to modern naval terminology. They meant, above all, a fast two-masted vessel versatile enough to serve as a merchant ship, a courier ship, or, with a change of crew, an effective pirate craft. Simply put, a brigantine was not a single, precisely defined model, but an entire category of fast, two-masted sailing vessels. And it was this versatility that made it one of the most popular ships used by pirates during the Golden Age of piracy, second only to the smaller sloop. The brigantine has an unusually long and geographically diverse development. Its name originated in the Mediterranean, yet the final form we associate with the age of piracy did not take shape until several centuries later in the Atlantic. To understand why pirates so often chose brigantines, we need to follow their evolution from the very beginning. As mentioned earlier, the first documented brigantines appeared in the 14th and 15th centuries in the Mediterranean as small, fast oar and sail vessels with one or two lateen-rigged masts. This is where their original name, brigantino, was born. During the 16th century, brigantines spread across the wider Mediterranean world, but the rise of major naval powers and the increasing dominance of heavier ocean-going ships gradually rendered these small hybrid vessels obsolete. Sailors and merchants needed larger ships capable of carrying more cargo and more guns, and so the original oar and sail brigantines slowly disappeared. Yet the word brigantine did not vanish. It simply migrated elsewhere. At the turn of the 16th and 17th centuries, the term began to appear in naval archives, ship descriptions, and registries from the Atlantic world. Here it was used primarily by the French and the English to describe small, fast, two-masted vessels. These new Atlantic brigantines no longer carried oars, and their rigging evolved toward square sails, which were more suitable for the stronger winds of the open ocean. The ship retained its speed and versatility but gained a far greater operational range. In the 17th century, the modern form of the brigantine emerged as we described earlier. In simplified terms, a two-masted vessel combining square sails on the foremast with fore and aft rigging on the mainmast. This configuration allowed for fast sailing with the wind, as well as solid maneuverability against it. Brigantines became popular among merchants, smugglers, colonial captains, and also naval officers, who used them as fast courier and reconnaissance ships. By the time the golden age of piracy erupted after 1690, brigantines were already a common sight in the Caribbean, along the American coast, and on the so-called pirate route. The long route along which pirates sailed from the Caribbean to the coast of Africa and then further into the Indian Ocean. This route was used, for example, by Henry Every, Thomas Tew, and later by Black Bart Roberts. So when pirates chose a brigantine, it was not an exotic decision. It was a vessel shaped by centuries of development. From Mediterranean raiding craft to two-masted ocean-going sailing ships. And this evolution gave it precisely the qualities that proved exceptionally valuable for pirate operations. During the golden age of piracy, the brigantine was one of the most versatile smaller ships afloat. It was not a specialized warship, but a fast and flexible design that could be easily adapted to a wide range of purposes. The hull of a typical brigantine measured roughly 18 to 24 meters in length, with a displacement of about 50 to 150 tons. Compared to a frigate or a ship of the line, a brigantine was far more agile, yet it remained more stable than a sloop or a smaller schooner. Put simply, it was large enough to carry a sizable crew and cargo, while retaining the speed, agility, and maneuverability that made it invaluable at sea. Another advantage was its relatively shallow draft. It was not as shallow as a sloop's, but still shallow enough for brigantines to operate safely in coastal waters, river mouths, and relatively shallow bays. Places where a frigate or a warship would never dare to venture. As for armament, brigantines typically did not carry heavy guns. They were usually equipped with around 8 to 14 light cannons on the broadsides and several swivel guns mounted on the bow and stern. Compared to large naval ships, this was modest firepower, but for attacking merchant vessels, it was more than sufficient. Pirates preferred quick intimidation and rapid boarding over extended cannon duels. Most crews surrendered at the sight of a black flag and the warning shot that often accompanied it. As we know from the previous video, the black flag offered a chance to surrender before combat, though not all pirates used it. In peaceful commercial service, brigantines usually carried a crew of 10 to 15 men. Pirates, however, routinely overmanned these vessels, often placing 50 to 80 sailors aboard. This was not only to add combat strength, but also because a larger boarding party meant a faster takeover of a prize ship and a greater chance of capturing a vessel intact, allowing the pirates to crew it as a second ship. Brigantines offered an ideal balance of performance, size, and subtlety. They were fast, relatively inexpensive, easy to acquire, and capable of carrying both enough provisions for long voyages and enough firepower for raids. Thanks to their design, they were more flexible than fully square-rigged brigs and more maneuverable than larger warships or frigates. In short, when a captain spotted a brigantine on the horizon, he had to consider the possibility that he was looking at an unremarkable trader or a very dangerous pirate hunter. The most famous example of a pirate brigantine is the Ranger, used by Charles Vane in 1718. Originally, it was a slave ship designed for transporting enslaved people from Africa to the Caribbean. When Vane seized the vessel off the coast of Carolina, he quickly refitted it, increasing its armament, adding more cannons, and expanding the crew. The Ranger soon became his flagship. Thanks to its speed, Vane was able to successfully raid merchant ships and escape from the heavier naval vessels dispatched to the Caribbean after 1717. The Brigantine allowed him to conduct swift attacks and vanish before local naval patrols could react. Another often cited example is the Amity, the vessel on which Thomas II carried out his raids. Historical sources disagree on whether it was a brig or a brigantine, but modern literature usually identifies it as a brigantine. The ship was fast, well-equipped, and well-suited for long voyages along the previously mentioned pirate route from the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean. II's successful career ended only with his battle against the winged ships of the Mughal fleet. A reminder that while a brigantine was fast, it had clear limitations in a direct fight against well-organized and heavier vessels. Pirates did not use brigantines solely as main fighting ships. They often served as fast auxiliary vessels suitable for scouting, raiding smaller traders, or pursuing fleeing targets. Court records from Jamaica, Barbados, and Bermuda indicate that pirates frequently acquired brigantines from coastal merchants, smugglers, or slave ship captains. The reason was simple. Many brigantines were built specifically for speed and long ocean voyages, making them ideal platforms for pirate modifications. They were also typically well-maintained, since their owners depended on them for profit. And when pirates captured a ship in good condition, all they had to do was temporarily increase its armament, expand the crew, and sail back out to sea. In summary, brigantines offered pirates exactly what they needed: speed for attacks, agility for maneuvering, subtlety for approaching their prey, and practicality for operating with a large crew. They were not the biggest or strongest ships of their era, but their balance of performance and simplicity made them ideal vessels for pirate operations, both in the Caribbean and across the wider Atlantic. Thank you for joining me on another voyage into the past, a place where facts blend with legend and long-forgotten names rise once more beneath the black flag. If you enjoyed the video, I'd truly appreciate a subscription, a comment, or a share. And wherever your journey takes you, remember this: history is often darker than legend.